Here's my audience.
Have you ever thought about how many trees are being cut down to make the things that you use in your everyday life? Whether it's at work, at school, or even drying your hands off with a towel in the bathroom? Probably not, but I'm here today to tell you why you should and why it's important that we keep trees around and limit the amount that we waste and cause deforestation. I, for one, think about these problems all the time, and I find myself consciously trying to reduce the amount of paper that I use every day. And I decided to do some research into whether trees are even that important to us and whether I should be thinking about what I do with paper in my everyday life. And after I found out how important and vital to our lives that they are, I decided to research a little deeper into some ways that I can either further reduce the amount of paper that I use in my life without taking away that convenience that paper brings to us, as well as some ways that I can maybe use my financial advantages to donate to maybe reforest and keep the trees replanted and keep habitats alive. More people need to know how important trees are, and I'm here to do that today, and I'm going to give you 3 reasons why trees are very vital to us as well as animals, and even animals that you wouldn't think, like underwater animals. And I'll start by doing that right now. The first reason that trees are vital in everyday life is that they provide oxygen to every living being, no matter if it's on land, if it's a plant, if it's underwater. Trees are providing oxygen. According to the USDA, one large mature tree can produce enough oxygen for a family of 4 for a whole year, which equals about 268 pounds of oxygen produced per year. And as reported by onetreeplanted.org, while phytoplankton that are on the ocean floor actually produce 70% of the oxygen that we take in every day, trees still produce 28% of that, so almost a third. So it's completely detrimental to our lives, and without them we would not be able to survive. And in an article from bbc.org, we find that animals, humans, and even underwater animals would not be able to survive without trees, because they provide oxygen and they help us breathe. And in urban areas especially, we would find a lot of starvation and floods and people dying because they can't breathe because of the concentration of the oxygen consumption. That's my first reason, and my second reason is going to be that the trees combat climate change through the consumption of carbon dioxide, CO2, in the atmosphere. And in 1 year, a mature tree is gonna absorb 48 pounds of CO2, and they're gonna turn it into oxygen. And in an explanation from the Columbia Climate School, we find that CO2 is going to take the infrared energy that the atmosphere produces, and it's gonna absorb it and then re-emit it, as you can see here, either towards the earth, causing the earth to heat up, or it's gonna push it back out to space. And so less of CO2 in the atmosphere is gonna help to keep climate change at a low and even could reverse it. Work of trees is going to be found most heavily in urban areas where there's high concentrations of people, because the people are going to be very closely packed together. So they're going to be taking all the oxygen from that one area and they're going to be using it all up, as opposed to rural areas that oxygen is going to be left over. So we're going to see the biggest impact of trees versus no trees in urban areas. So that's my second reason. And going from humans, how trees can help humans, into how trees help animals, we're going to see how trees provide shelter, food, and even nesting areas for animals. According to AmericanForests.org, 80% of Earth's of Earth's land-dwelling animals rely on trees for habitats, food, and survival. And it's not just land-dwelling animals, it's also the underwater animals that are relying on trees and plants too. And whether it's a bird nesting or a beaver building a dam or a human relying on trees for food and fruits, everyone needs trees in their lives, and without them we wouldn't be able to survive. And actually, opposed to this, humans cut down 14 billion trees a year for their own use, for building, for paper, for all sorts of different things. And with an increase in population and increase in resource usage, and especially with the Industrial Revolution, we see, in accordance with that extra use of lumber and wood and extra cutting down trees, we see an extreme rise in the extinction of animals, and especially mammals, birds, and all the animals that you would expect to use trees quite a bit. And we love our animals and we don't want them to go extinct, so we need to find different ways that we can either reduce our usage of this wood, or if that's not quite possible, we're going to have to plant more trees, and we need to find ways to do that and to help financially support that. So what can we do as a society to help either increase trees or decrease the destruction of trees? There's a lot of different ways. Either financially you can help or just in your everyday life. And the main one is going to be donating, if you have a little extra money, to one of these big tree planting companies such as the Arbor Day Foundation or One Tree Planted. And even if you don't have enough money set aside to be able to do that and you're not in a financial situation to help them out, you can still alter your everyday life. And you can change your habits to limit your plastic or limit your paper usage. And we learned a couple ways you can do that from wikihow.org. And one of the things that I thought was really cool that you could do is you could, if you're in class or you're taking a class through your job, then you could take your notes on a computer instead of writing out everything. And the second thing you could do would be to use cloth napkins or towels instead of paper towels or paper napkins, where you're just wasting all this paper. And the third thing you would do is you could avoid paper plates. Like if you're at a birthday party, you could avoid paper plates or paper dinnerware. And there's quite a few other ways that you could use, but I just thought that those were the three that you could mainly incorporate into your everyday life without losing any convenience. And with that being said, I'll conclude. So we learned how trees can affect humans through their oxygen production, through their carbon dioxide consumption, through their shelter and their survival and their food impact for animals and humans alike. And we also learned what we can do to help protect trees and to limit the destruction of trees. And in closing, I hope that this maybe opened your eyes a little bit to how you can help, whether it's financially or just in your everyday habits, and maybe it made you reflect on what you do every day in your life when it comes to using paper and maybe wasting a little bit, or maybe your habits are already good and you're recycling. And I just want everybody to think about that a little bit more and see how they can affect society, because if we all work as a unit, we can help save our planet and reverse the effects that we've had on the earth so far. Thank you.